My name is Jerm. This is Jerm Warfare, the battle of ideas. Carl Czar, making news great again. Thank you for joining me in the trenches.
Wow, we're on video now. This is like for jumping from a 2D world to a 3D world. Well, thank you for inviting me, Jeremy.
Don't you think technology is great? I mean, video. Who would have thought that we could do something with video in the year 2023?
Exactly. Across the continent, from Bali to South Africa.
Yes, and of course, Joel and Alex are in Australia. I mean, that's incredible.
Indeed, indeed. But we're going to talk about United States.
Not Australia.
One, right? We're going to talk because USA number one. That's so we have to talk about USA, and there's so much things going on right now. There was one news.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask you if you like garlic.
I love garlic, man. I'm Chinese. So I just saw this headline. The U.S. Senator from Florida, Rick Scott, said the Chinese garlic is a national security issue for the United States. So it really took me a second to think this through. Like, how does the garlic become a national security issue? So I thought, okay, in China, traditionally, we use the garlic to ward off the evil spirits, right? I'm like, okay, that makes sense because vampires hate garlic, right? That's why the U.S. congressman.
No, you're lying, Carl. This isn't a real story, surely. Is it a real story?
No, that is a real story. He literally said Chinese garlic is a national security issue. Well, he said because for citing example from YouTube videos, he said the Chinese, they grew the garlic with human feces and sewage, which is completely made up because the McGill University released a report says there's no evidence the sewage was used. And just going back to, okay, so people talk about organic farming, organic produce. What do people think that magic organic material come from? Like in the old times, it's all like manure and feces. And this is why, like in places in China or Asia, we cook our vegetables. We cook everything. You cook your pork, you cook your vegetables. That's why one of the biggest cultural shock for me when coming to the United States when I was 13 was like, holy crap, people just eat like raw vegetables. What's wrong with these people? But it's culture. It's culture tradition. In China, you cook everything. You drink boiled water, right? A lot of older Chinese folks that still drink boiled water. But I understand about the garlic issue now. It's really because the vampires are scared of garlic, right? So this is why. This is the real reason why the U.S. congressman is complaining about garlic. And speaking about the U.S. Congress, they just passed a bill that equate anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. I used to say the U.S. The U.S. Congress. I like to say the U.S. Congress has the best politician money can buy. I don't know if I can say that anymore. I think that's an anti-Semitic statement now. Just saying that makes me an anti-Semite. And I don't know if you heard Joe Biden recently. He was speaking at a Hanukkah holiday event, and he said, "You don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist. I am a Zionist." So I guess that means now if you're anti-Zionist, you're anti-Semite, because Joe Biden is a Zionist. If you're anti-Biden, now you're anti-Semite, Jeremy. So we're all anti-Semites now. The U.S. Congress just declared millions of people around the world are anti-Semites, and now I'm probably in trouble. Like Carl is like now.
You know what's crazy
now
though?
I'm on the same level as Kanye West, basically. I'm an anti-Semite.
I can't get past the fact though that this is supposed to be the world's superpower, right? And Joe Biden is supposed to be the most powerful man in the world. He falls upstairs He can't speak in full sentences. And I mean, here we in Africa, we've got pretty useless leaders. And that was the one thing that we were proud of. Like, the one thing that we are winning, the one race that we are winning is the world's worst leaders. Now America can't even let us have that victory.
Jeremy, USA #1. Okay, USA #1 in everything. I mean, this is the world's most powerful man, right? The leader of the free world. He was at the Hanukkah holiday speaking event, and he said, the Hamas attack, which happened 65 years ago, and my father, he said, my father walked into the kibbutz.
But we know this year's Hanukkah is different. It's been 65 years since the deadliest day of the Jewish people since the Holocaust. 65 years. After October 7th, my father returned to his kibbutz to salvage what he could from his home. What was left was the rubble and ruin. The home, which he had hidden in with his wife and his daughter for 20 hours before being rescued.
Pretty sure Joe Biden's father is not alive, and this is a man that we are trusting with like the key to the nuclear weapons. It's and now he wants 4 more years. I mean, this is great. This is great for comedy material, right? We're living like a comedic madhouse. But back to you, Jeremy.
I mean, what did he say recently? There was another thing that he said recently, but while I'm trying to remember that, Kamala Harris, did you see what she said? about it doesn't matter if it has happened.
What is she?
Well, if something, like what does she say?
Exactly. What does she say? I mean, most of the time she says she can talk about 5 minutes and still have no idea what he's saying. It's all about vibes,
No, what did she say? She said something about even if we have seen it or we haven't seen it doesn't mean that it hasn't happened yet.
Exactly. What does that even mean? It's like it's a moment. Like she will say something like, "It's about the moment in time." What are you talking about? You are the vice president of the United States. You will become the president of the United States if Joe Biden croaked, and which is a real possibility given his mental state. And this is what the best we're working with. And Biden said something else. He was so he is always talking about his back in the day his familiarity with Chinese President Xi Jinping. But this time he said, "Oh, I was walking." He keeps on talking about like how I walked with Xi Jinping, the Himalayas for like 20,000 miles, and but this time he said, "I was walking with Deng Xiaoping in the Himalayas."
Here's the deal. I've said this, and I said this to Deng Xiaoping in the Himalayas, and I've said this to every world leader.
he was the president in the 80s.
Deng Xiaoping is dead for like 20 years. And then, I mean, like, you would think, like Joe Biden at least know the difference between Deng Xiaoping and Xi Jinping, who he claimed he spent a lot of time with, had a great personal rapport, and he's calling him by another man's name. But anyway, enough about Joe Biden.
Well, we can go on all day about Joe Biden. But you know what's sad, though?
It'll be the Joe Biden show. Yeah.
What's sad, though, is that there is something wrong with him. And it's sad that they aren't removing him. They aren't recalling him. They're just pushing him into the press conferences. I mean, he can't speak properly.
He's a perfect foil, because this guy, half the time, he's not coherent. It's like the perfect plausible deniability. It's like, oh no, he doesn't really mean what he said. He's a puppet. Nobody thinks he's actually pulling the strings, right? I mean, like, they just roll him out to speak, and then they will backtrack and say, oh no, he meant something else. But which is great, because they can always change the script and say, he doesn't mean it. He's just a senile old man. We got this under control. Trust us, folks.
I can guarantee you. Give it 2 weeks, and Biden's going to make a statement saying that he flew in the IDF.
You know what? That's possibility so real. I mean, like that's yeah. Well, that's where we are today.
It's sad, but I mean, in all seriousness, I wonder what Xi Jinping and Putin are actually thinking. I mean, I saw them recently hanging out, and I mean, they're actually real leaders.
Yeah, I mean, you can't see that when Xi Jinping or Putin visiting other countries. Putin was getting like the red carpet treatment in UAE, in Saudi Arabia. Xi Jinping was recently in Vietnam. They are being seen by most of the world, which is 85% of the world that's outside the United States and its vassal states in Europe, as the real leaders leading the change. That's why when Xi Jinping went to Moscow and met Putin, and he said, "We are seeing changes that haven't happened for 100 years, and you and I are driving that change together." And when he said that, that was powerful because that actually meant something. As opposed to Biden, he says something and he forgets the next minute. So I mean, it's this is what we will work with, guys.
What do you think is going to happen, though, in the next election?
Well, I mean, United States, number one, which is greatest democracy in the world, which offered its voters plenty of choices. You either have Biden or you have Trump, and that's the only choice I'm going to get. Because, I mean, RFK was at one point in time present at a possible third party candidate material, but I think he lost a lot of credibility recently, especially given the Israeli Palestine conflict, and he came out to be like 100% pro-Israel. So he's losing a lot of support from that, because a lot of people supported RFK because he originally represented the anti-war voice. That's not Trump. Because Trump is also anti-war, but there's people who don't like Trump, so they can still choose RFK. But then RFK just showed himself he's really no different than other USA politicians. They just say the same lines. It's like like most recently, the UN just came out with a resolution calling for ceasefire in Palestine. I mean, UN resolution. It's the most toothless piece of paper, that like nobody takes UN resolution seriously. It's certainly not Israel. I mean, even something like that, United States couldn't even bring itself to abstain from the vote. They don't have to vote yes. They just have to abstain, and yet they have to go against the trend. U.S. was one of the only 10 nations that voted no to the UN resolution calling for a ceasefire, and this is. I mean, the rest of the world is not looking to U.S. for leadership at this point, because they see Biden on the podium and they're like, "Holy crap!"
Yeah, I think they are looking to the east now, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, right now, all the U.S. project that has launched under Biden administration, the Ukraine war against Russia. That's failing, and U.S. Congress is right now is ready to pull the plugs on funding Ukraine. I mean, that's going to send some messages to other U.S. vassal states all around the world. Like Taiwan is going to look at Ukraine. It's like, holy crap, these guys just got them like half their male population wiped out for what? Right? I mean, like who would be stupid enough to try to be the next Zelensky? To try to serve as U.S. pawn in a deadly proxy war, when like after a couple of years they just cut you off. Because let's face it, neither Taiwan nor Ukraine is going to be able to compete with Israel, the golden child. Israel is a golden boy of the United States. All the resources U.S. have, that's going to go to Israel. There's not enough to go around. They don't have enough artillery shells for Ukraine, and they're certainly not going to divert whatever ammunition that's going to ship to Israel currently. to Ukraine or anywhere else. You're just never gonna occupy the U.S. the Washington Beltway imagination that the way Israel does. You know, like nobody is gonna come even close. There's no competition there.
So USA number one, Israel number two.
Well, right now it looks like Israel is number one because
Yes.
Israel is calling all the shots, and the U.S. politicians like how high, you know, like Israel says jump, all the congressmen says how high, and this is a big disconnect in U.S. itself, because if you survey after survey shows like 70% of the population wanted ceasefire. Yet the Congress, I think the problem is the U.S. Congress and U.S. politicians, they're still stuck in the 80s and 90s. And because that's when Biden still had his mental faculty. His peak years was back in the 80s and 90s. And that's a world he remembers.
If we look at the Middle East, I think it's about time we stop, those of us who support, as most of us do, Israel in this body, for apologizing for our support for Israel. There's no apology to be made. None. It is the best $3 billion investment we make. Were there not an Israel, the United States of America would have to invent an Israel to protect her interest in the region. The United States would have to go out and invent an Israel.
You know, like that, they just still think they function in that world, but the world has already moved to 2023, and now we have this kind of disconnect. You know, they need to get on with the internet age here.
Yeah, Biden still thinks that playing Vanilla Ice and MC Hammer for his grandkids is all current and happening. Carl, I read a funny story that kind of links to the garlic. So this is an addition. Of course, we know that Chinese eat dogs, and the other one is eating babies. So maybe the garlic goes well with that.
Saute, you gotta go with Shanti beans, fava, Shanti and fava beans.
to add to the taste of the dogs and the babies. I mean, do people actually believe this nonsense?
Well, I mean, once you get asked that question when I first came to U.S. in 1990, I mean, it wasn't by like hostile people. It's like by my like friends in high school. They're like, we heard Chinese people eat babies. I'm like, what? Where did you hear this from? But this is fairly like an urban myth that's persistent. And then, you know, it's always like some people pull out some like TikTok videos as a proof, and like I don't know, man. It's like that Chinese eat bat story, right? Like I never like the whole thing started as is this a Chinese traveler? He went to Palau. You know, Palau is a Pacific island east of the Philippines, and Palau, a local dish of Palau is actually the roasted fruit bats. That's a local delicacy. So she made herself a TikTok video of her eating that bat. So that video was what went viral during the COVID times, and that got to the whole Chinese people eating bat story, and it got so bad. Get this: the Taiwan leader of Taiwan, Tsai Ing-wen, right? She went to Palau, and she actually on her Twitter, she tweeted out her eating the bats, and then by the COVID time hits, they realized, oh, that's really bad. So the Taiwan Information Ministry went back to her Twitter to swap it out from her own Twitter feed. I mean, this is. But anyway, I saw another. U.S. congressmen, because you know U.S. politicians, they're the best, made of the best comedic material on earth. This one is Senator Marsha Blackburn, and she tweeted out two tweets in sequence. One, she said, "I enjoyed my visit to National Chiang Kai-shek Memorial Hall in Taipei that remembers the works of President Chiang Kai-shek." And immediately following that, her next tweet is, we cannot back down to authoritarian leaders. I mean, like the tweet just came. For people who don't know who Chiang Kai-shek is, he is the authoritarian leader on Taiwan for decades, right? I mean, but the thing is, she get away with that because much of her voter base in America, first they don't know who Chiang Kai-shek is, and they thought, okay, Chiang Kai-shek probably means democracy because Taiwan is U.S. ally or something, right? I mean, this is what we're dealing with here because most Americans don't have passport. The all the people who do have passport, the two most country traveled to by Americans is Mexico and Canada. So here you go, folks.
I feel bad though.
This is why like the Chinese people eat baby stories, and people will believe that because most of the people never been to China. they will believe whatever they heard on the internet, and of course most reliable source of information, right? Germany internet. That's where I get all my information.
No, but of course not in China though, because the Chinese government censors the internet 100%.
Exactly. So if I'm in China and I'm tweeting, that means I'm actually employed by the Chinese Ministry of Security. I'm using their network to tweet out. But anyway, you can just download a VPN service before you go to China. I'm not gonna say who my provider is because that will sounds like advertisement. But that's what I do. I download a VPN service on my phone and I go to China. I use VPN service, and I have not. Well, I did. I was called to the police office when I went to China. This is a true story. So I was visiting my aunt. I stayed in my aunt's house, and the next day we got a call from the local police department. I was like, "Holy crap! How did they know I was here?" And they're like, "Oh, they're probably because your passport, my visa was a family visit visa, and when I come to China, go through the custom, you have to tell them where you're staying." I was like, "Okay, yeah, that's right." So we went to the police. So apparently, for all the foreigners or foreign passport holders, if you're gonna stay in the home of a Chinese citizen, you have to register with the police. That's a procedure. So they were wondering why I've been in China for like more than 24 hours and I didn't register. So I went to the police department. I filmed my walk to the police station, and then I'm walking toward the local police department. My aunt just received a call this morning because they found out that there's American living in her place. So by regulation, we have to register within 24 hours. So now here we are at the local. But no, they didn't bother me. They didn't stop me from filming, and they just say, "Hey, look, you need to fill out some paperwork, and normally there's a fine, but we understand you probably didn't know the regulations, so we'll give you a slap, give you a warning, don't do it again," and that's it. They register me, and that's it. That's my brush with the Chinese authoritarian police in China.
But the funny thing is that people seem to think that the Chinese government is this superhuman collection of unbelievably intelligent individuals. Like they have ultimate control over everybody. But at the end of the day, they're just essentially government employees like in every other country. And there are so many more Chinese people who are smarter than them.
Exactly. I mean, the way how it works in China is don't ask, don't tell, right? I mean, like there are a lot of rules that says you shouldn't do this, but if you don't report it, nobody know you're violating the rules. I mean, it's a lot of things happen in the gray area. I mean, this is actually how Chinese economy took off to get away with a lot of the state planning, straitjackets, placed on the economy, because before there's rules, you can't do this, you can't own your private business, you can do that. But then people are just start doing their own things, and next thing you know, things are becoming opened up, and they change the rules. Then later they change the rules, and it's legal. But that's how most of the time it works in China. It's you don't go to the police and say, "Sir, I am doing something illegal." But no, I mean, you just go about your life, and people don't bother you about it. People think like all the Chinese police have these like antennas, they have like they can listen in everywhere. It's like Black Mirror,
with drones, they flying above them.
Yeah. They have bugs in your room, listening to your conversation. Like half the time they don't understand English, right? And the last thing they want to worry about is some foreigner who, whatever. It's like talking shit about Xi Jinping or something. In English.
That's actually the truth. Yes. So, I mean, somebody who's not Chinese, my understanding is essentially this. The only issues the Chinese government really has with internet usage is if you are trying to organize a protest, and that's okay. They don't like protests against them, right? Fine. And they don't really want you talking smack about the president.
Yeah, I mean, but if you're a non-Chinese person, I mean, like Chinese government don't have jurisdiction over you, right? I mean, like whatever you think about China, whatever Chinese government does, its impact is most primarily on the Chinese citizens living inside China. Like if you're a foreign passport holder, I'm not worried about Chinese government getting my data. I'm not worried. I mean, the worst thing that happened to me is like some Chinese scammers somehow got hold of my WeChat information, and I keep on getting these calls in Chinese telling me I have a package in the Chinese consulate in Indonesia, which I immediately know is fraud because there's no reason I would have a package in the Chinese consulate in Indonesia. So they somehow they figure out I am Chinese, but they didn't know I don't have a Chinese passport, so there's no reason for me to go to the Chinese consulate. But anyway, so this is